Section 11.5 in Algebra 1 is on multiplying and dividing rational expressions. I want you to write down the title, and I want you also to write down to multiply, you need to multiply the numerators and the denominators, and to divide, you need to multiply by the reciprocal of the divisor. This is the only thing you need to write down on this page is the title and to multiply and to divide. As you're writing this down, I want to talk a little bit about multiplication and a little bit about division of fractions. And when we think rational expression, I want you to think fraction. And you don't have to write that down, but I want us all to be aware that when I talk about rational expressions, for the most part, I'm talking about expressions with fractions. Now, if we remember right, when we multiply fractions, 1/2 times something like 3/4, we multiply straight across. We'd go 1 times 3, which would be 3, and 2 times 4, which would be 8. If there's anything that can be reduced, we'd reduce from there. When we divide, we multiply by the reciprocal, or we flip. Remember, the only thing you need to have in your notes is what's written in black. If I were to multiply 1/2, or if I were to divide 1/2 by 1/3, I would say, all right, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And the reciprocal of 1/3, we would flip it, 3/1. Multiply straight across, 3/2 would be my answer. Now today we're going to take those two concepts, but we're going to work with some variables and with some rational expressions. So example number 1, these are examples. We are going to simplify 3x to the third all over 4x multiplied by 8x squared all over 15x to the fourth. Now this is similar to what we were doing last time, but what we did last time is we just covered up one of these sections and we just worked one at a time. Now we're going to multiply, which means we have to remember all of our rules of multiplication. We have to remember how to multiply exponents. When we multiply exponents with the same base, we're going to add them. So I'm going to multiply straight across. I'm going to take 3 times 8, which is going to give me 24. I'm going to take x to the third times x to the second. I add those up and it would be x to the fifth. All over, I'm going to take 4 times 15, which would give me 60. X to the first, if there's nothing there, it's the first, times x to the fourth is x to the fifth. From here is where I start simplifying, and when I simplify, I'm going to get out my, red pen. First thing I'm going to do is simplify my numbers. 24 and 60 are both divisible by 12. 24 divided by 12. 12 goes into 24 2 times. 60 goes into, or 12 goes into 60 5 times. So that would be 2/5. We have x to the fifth and x to the fifth. Now I can go ahead and reduce those x's. When you're dividing exponents, you're subtracting. So x to the fifth and x to the fifth, those are going to end up canceling out. I can either write that as x to the 5 minus 5, which would be x to the 0. Or I can say, well, up here, there's 5 x's. Down here, there's 5 x's. We're just going to cross those out. So my answer for number 1 is going to be 2/5. All right, example number 2. Keep it on that same idea. We're going to simplify x divided by 3x squared minus 9x times x minus 3 all over 2x squared plus x minus 3. And we're going to multiply that. This is different than the last one. I want to go back to the last one here for a second. The last one, I had simplified term up here. I had a simplified term down here, a simplified term up here, and a simplified term down there, meaning nothing needed to be factored. On this example, I have a simplified term right here, but down here I'm not simplified yet. I need to go ahead and factor that. Up here I'm simplified. Down here I am not simplified, so I need to factor that also. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. X is simplified. I'm going to factor this guy right here. I look at it and I say, well, 3x squared and 9x, they both share a 3 and they both share an x. So I'm going to simplify that. I'm left with an x minus a 3. So I'm good here. Times, this is simplified, so I'm just going to write x minus 3 all over. This is not simplified. I need to factor it. The signs are going to be different. Factors of 2 and factors of 3 that are going to add up to be a positive 1. Well, let's see. It's going to be something like x and 2x, 1. We'll try 1 and 3. So I'll try my outsides. 2x minus 1 is negative 2. X plus 3x gives me 1x. Good, I factored that correctly. All right, so I'm done with that. I'll go ahead and erase that. Now, I can go ahead and multiply straight across. If everything is simplified, it's pretty much locked in parentheses. I always talk about locking something in if there's subtraction or addition. I want to lock it in. I'm going to multiply straight across. And notice how my goal right now is just to create one big fraction before I cancel anything out. X times x minus 3. Well, let's not distribute anything yet. Let's keep it all simplified. All over, I've got a 3x out here. This is going to get kind of big. I've got an x minus 3, and then I've got a 2x plus 3, and I've got an x minus 1. Now, if there's anything identical in the numerator or the denominator, I can cross them out. And these x minus 3's are identical. They are separated by subtraction, and they're both in the parentheses. If there were the 3's, I can't cross that 3 out. It's got to be absolutely identical. So I'm going to cross those out. Also, I share an x out here, so I'm going to cross this x out and this x down here. So now I'm going to rewrite what I have left. I'll go back to my, well, I'll stay with my red marker here. Rewrite what I have left. Up top, I just crossed everything out. So I'm going to have a 1 over, I've got a 3, I've got a 2x plus 3, and I've got an x minus 1. Now there's absolutely nothing that's outside the parentheses or that's matching in the numerator and denominator that I can divide out, so that is my answer. We're going to do another one real similar to that. Back to blue. Example number 3. We've got a 7x all over x squared plus 5x plus 4, and we're going to multiply that by x plus 4. If you ever have an expression without a denominator, you know that x plus 4, we can always turn that into the fraction by putting it over 1. So now I'm going to start again at the top left. I'm going to go through and see what's reduced. 7x is reduced. This x squared plus 5x plus 4 is not reduced, so I need to factor this. This x plus 4 is reduced and this 1's reduced. So I'm going to rewrite my fractions. 7x all over, factor the denominator. Factors of 4 that add up to 5, or 4 and 1. Factored all over x plus 4 over 1. Now I'm going to multiply straight across and create one big fraction. I do not want to distribute. I want to keep everything outside of the parentheses. So 7x times x minus 4. Keep it in simplest form. Do not FOIL. All over, I've got x plus 4 and x plus 1. If I have anything outside of the parentheses that can be reduced, I do that. I don't have anything outside of these parentheses. If you have any parentheses that are identical, you can cancel them out or divide them. X plus 4 and x plus 4 are both identical in the parentheses, so I'm going to cancel those out. So my answer is going to be 7x all over x plus 1. All right, that's the last problem I have for multiplication, and we're going to start getting into division here. So in multiplication, what I want you to do to go through the steps again is you go through 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and you make sure they're in simplest form. To be in simplest form, they are factored. You take all the factors and greatest common factors out. Second step is you multiply straight across. You keep everything either in its parentheses or outside of it. You don't combine inside. Combine straight across, and then you cross out any factors you have in common. We're going to do the same thing. This is now division. Example 1 on division. We're going to simplify 4n all over n plus 5 divided by n minus 9 all over n plus 5. Now, division is a little bit different. The only thing that is different on division is that you need to flip and multiply. That means you're multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of n minus 9 over n plus 5 is the flipped version. So I'm going to say 4n over n plus 5 multiplied by the reciprocal, which would be n plus 5 all over n minus 9. Now I go through and I make sure everything's in simplest form. 4n's good, n plus 5 is in simplest form, n plus 5 is in simplest form, and n minus 9 is in simplest form. Notice I locked those in with parentheses. If you have addition or subtraction, I like to lock them in. That way you don't start getting crazy crossing things out. We're going to multiply straight across. 4n stays on the outside of the parentheses, n plus 5, all over n plus 5 times n minus 9. If I have anything in common, identical, inside the parentheses, I cancel them out. That n plus 5 and that n plus 5 are identical. I've got nothing outside the parentheses now, so I can't cancel out that n and that n minus 9. This is locked in. It's got addition or subtraction. So I have 4n all over n minus 9 is my final answer. Notice, this n and that n do not get a cancel out. This n minus 9 is locked in. If you have addition or subtraction attached to your n's or your variables, you cannot cancel that out. All right, last example. Division example number 2. We're going to say x squared minus 9 all over 4x squared divided by x minus 3. Here's our last division example. Remember, when we're dividing, we're multiplying by a reciprocal. So I'm going to say x squared minus 9 all over 4x squared multiplied by, and then I find the reciprocal. If it's not already in a fraction, I want to make it in a fraction. X minus 3 is the same thing as x minus 3 over 1. That means the reciprocal is 1 over x minus 3. Now I'm going to go through again, and I'm going to check. X squared minus 9 is not simplified. That can be factored. So I'm going to factor everything I can. X squared minus 9 is a difference of squares. So it's going to factor into different signs. X and x, square root of 9 is 3 and 3. All over 4x squared is already simplified. Times 1 is simplified. And x minus 3 is simplified. Notice it's locked in because we have addition or subtraction. So I'm going to multiply straight across. Up top, I have this times that, so I get x plus 3 and x minus 3. In the denominator, 4x squared is going to stay outside the parentheses, and I have x minus 3. So I share two identical x minus 3's in the parentheses, so I'm going to cross those out. This x minus 3 and that x minus 3. That makes my answer x plus 3 all over 4x squared. Remember, these x's cannot be canceled out. This is not separated by multiplication, it's separated by addition, which means it's locked in there. X plus 3 over 4x squared is my final answer. All right, your homework assignment for next time is page 673, 4 through 34. Bookwork, you're going to do all of them. The key is on the board. If you want to check as you go, odds are in the back of the book. When you are finished with page 673, I want you to work on the 11.2 worksheet, and that worksheet is on percents. Percents are what we learned last time in class. So this first, bookwork first, worksheet second. This is due next time, so make sure this is done. This percent worksheet we're going to look over a little bit in class, but if you have extra time, I want to make sure that you do both of those, so you don't have to waste class time next time on the percents.